Well, hello, Quest. Good to see you. Here we are, the first week in February. Can you believe it? At least for me, it felt like December lasted about 3 months. It just went on and on and on. And it was great, but it just felt like it lasted forever. And then January came along, and it felt like it was about 2 weeks long. It was over before I knew it. It was like, where did it go? And now here we are, the first of February, or first week of February, and kind of headed down the road. So, hey, welcome to 2023. I know it's a month late, but it's going to be a good run. We are right now at Quest about halfway through a series called Kingdom Design. Now, before Christmas, we did a series called Kingdom Life. And it was really kind of all about what Jesus taught in Matthew 18 about how to relate to each other in this thing called the church, the congregation, the assembly, the body of Christ. However you want to say it, is how do we relate to each other? What are some really important pieces of that about how we relate? And I found it to be really helpful, motivating. It changed the way I saw some things and hopefully the way I do some things personally. So that was good. And now we're in this thing called Kingdom Design, which is more about how do we relate to each other in the nuclear family. This thing that God created from the very beginning of a man and a woman and a family, people, and all of that. How do we relate? How do we do this thing? That includes children. That includes being single. This whole thing, how do we relate to each other in this kingdom design? And I think it's really so profoundly important that it's hard to overstate. Especially in a culture that is in such tremendous turmoil, of such disruption. And it's taking even that issue of the nuclear family and trying to turn it upside down and inside out. And being to really challenge where people are coming from, what they see life all about, how they relate to each other, how they relate to themselves in this whole issue of God's created design. And when we begin to take God out of the middle of the universe and we replace him with ourselves, then it gives us the freedom to begin to live life on our own accord, from our own perspective, from our own judgment. We make ourselves the center of the universe, which on one level you could say, okay, we just exchanged God for ourselves, but the unfortunate thing is when we replace God with ourselves, we destroy what God designed life to really be like. And so then we try to figure out, why is this not working? Why does this not add up? And we find that when we replaced God with ourselves, it can't add up. We were not designed to be the center of the universe. He was. He is. And we do best when we revolve around that in a relationship to that, okay? Now, besides this series, I want to encourage you and kind of give a plug for some upcoming things that we're doing. We announced it a few weeks ago, but it's called Friday Nights at the Fight. Now, obviously, it's a spin-off from the program that used to be on TV and some of the other places, even here in St. Louis, that did boxing matches on Friday nights, and it was kind of an entertainment thing. We even have SmackDown Friday nights on TV now again. We don't want to enter into that. But we wanted to play off of that and say Friday Nights at the Fight. And rather than doing a marriage retreat, we thought, let's do some Friday nights where we're focusing on this issue of marriage and family. Now, it's not intended to leave singles out. In fact, singles are very welcome to it, to kind of just be in that world and relating to what family and marriage is all about, whether they're looking forward to marriage or just valuing marriage and wanting to be a part. So it's not exclusive. So we're going to do Friday Nights at the Fight. It's going to be about marriage. And so the first one's going to be March 3rd. Then the next one will be April 14th. Then we'll do another one in May. And then another one in July, and from there we'll begin to schedule more and more. But I want to encourage you to participate in this, to come, to be a part of Friday Nights at the Fight. Because it's really designed that we would not only fight in our marriage in an appropriate way, because there's conflict, right? It happens. There's no marriage without conflict. If there's no conflict, it's because somebody's not participating. So there's going to be conflict. We want to do that conflict well, but we also want to fight for our marriages, not just to end them, but for them. And being able to say, I don't want anything to come between us. Let no one separate what God has brought together to make one. To divide that is incredibly painful. So hard. It's so disruptive. It's so destructive. So we want to fight for that. So I just want to encourage you to begin to put into your schedule coming to Friday nights at the fight. So because in our whole lives, we want to glorify God with everything that we do, right? So the Westminster Catechism says that the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever and ever. That is the chief end of man. It's not to make a living. It's not to have a lot of fun, though all those things are part of life. But is to glorify God and enjoy him forever and ever. Sometimes you could even say is to glorify God by enjoying him forever and ever. That we want to really glorify him. That we want to really focus on that. In the midst of the life in which we live, Romans 5 says that we want to glorify God for who he is. But not only that, that we would seek his glory, but we would really understand that in the midst of this life, that we would glorify him even in our suffering. Because the suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and that character produces hope, and it is a hope that is exposed by the pouring out of God's love within our hearts. And so that in all of life, no matter what happens, all the ups and all the downs, all the ins and all the outs, that we would say, I want to walk with him and glorify him with my life, with the things I do, with my heart, with my words, that we want to glorify him. Because his will for us is this beautiful, beautiful thing. That his will is good and acceptable and in fact perfect. Now, it's not always easy to figure that out and to live it out, is it? Because in this world, there is a disruptive nature of our own selfish pride and our sin, and it just gets there. But he is a God who forgives. He's a God who reconciles. He's a God who brings back together things that have been broken and to make really right that which has been wrong. And that's the wonderful work of Christ in our lives. So, hey, you guys, I love you. Looking forward to the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. But for now, may God really protect you and bless you and guide you. All right? All right, love you guys. See you soon.